There is nothing more terrifying than realizing you're being followed. Especially when every time you turn around, the street behind you is completely empty. Before we start, make sure to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and leave a like and a comment. You want to miss stories like this one. And trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. It happened 2 winters ago, when I was living in a small town, just outside of Portland. I had just gotten off a late shift at the diner I worked at. It was past midnight, and the streets were quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet where even the sound of your own footsteps feels intrusive. Usually, I took the main road home, brightly lit with stores and 24-hour gas stations. But that night, I decided to take the shortcut behind the strip mall. A narrow alley that cut the walk time in half. I'd done it dozens of times before. I remember pulling my coat tighter around me as the wind whipped through, stinging my face. The only light came from a flickering street lamp halfway down the alley. That's when I heard it. The crunch of gravel behind me. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe it was a stray cat, or my imagination playing tricks after a long shift. But then it happened again. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Matching my pace. I stopped. The footsteps stopped. A chill ran down my spine. I turned around, expecting to see someone, but the alley was empty. Just the pale glow of that flickering lamp, casting long, distorted shadows across the wet pavement. I tried to laugh it off, telling myself I was being paranoid. I started walking again, a little faster this time, but so did the footsteps. I remember my hands trembling as I reached into my bag for my phone. No signal. Of course, this alley was notorious for that. I decided to call my roommate as soon as I reached the main road. When I finally got to the end of the alley, I turned onto Maple Street, relieved to see the dim orange glow of the streetlights and the distant hum of cars on the highway. I thought I was safe until I glanced at the reflection in the convenience store window. There was a man. He was standing just at the mouth of the alley, tall, wearing a dark hoodie pulled over his head. I couldn't make out his face. He wasn't moving, just standing there, like he was watching me. My chest tightened. Maybe he was just some random guy taking a walk. Maybe. But something about the way he stood, completely still, made my stomach twist. I ducked into the convenience store, pretending to browse. The clerk gave me a polite nod, but I could tell from his tired eyes he'd seen this before. Girls coming in late at night, pretending to shop, waiting for someone to leave. I stayed there for 5, maybe 10 minutes. When I finally worked up the courage to look outside, the man was gone. I exhaled a shaky breath and told myself I'd overreacted. I grabbed a small coffee and paid for it, trying to act normal. The clerk glanced up at me and said quietly, "Be careful out there tonight." Those words stuck with me. I stepped outside, clutching the coffee like it could somehow protect me. The street was empty again, no one behind me. I started walking home, my apartment just 4 blocks away. I crossed the first intersection, turned left, and froze. The sound was faint at first, but unmistakable. Footsteps. Again. This time, I didn't tattoo around. I just kept walking, faster, my breath coming out in sharp clouds. The footsteps grew louder, quicker, until I could almost feel someone's presence just behind me. Finally, I spun around. Nothing. The street was completely deserted, not a single person in sight. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. I backed up slowly, eyes darting from shadow to shadow, searching for movement. That's when I saw it. A shape, just barely visible under the dim light of a street lamp, halfway down the block. Someone was there, watching me again. He started walking toward me. My keys jingled wildly in my pocket as I sprinted down the street, adrenaline flooding my veins. I could hear his footsteps pounding behind me. Faster, closer. When I reached my apartment complex, I fumbled with the gate code, my fingers numb from the cold and fear. I could hear him. He was almost there. I turned, ready to scream. But there was no one, just the empty street. I slammed the gate shut and ran inside, bolting my door behind me. My entire body was shaking. I stood there in silence, listening. Nothing. No footsteps, no voices. After what felt like forever, I peeked through the peephole. The street outside was still and empty. Maybe it had been my imagination. Maybe exhaustion and paranoia had gotten the better of me. That's what I told myself as I finally sat down on the couch, trying to calm down. But then I heard it, a faint scraping sound at my window. I froze. The blinds were half closed, but through the gap I saw movement, the shadow of a hand, dragging slowly across the glass. Breath caught in my throat. I didn't move, didn't make a sound. I just watched as the hand disappeared, then reappeared. Higher this time, like someone was testing the window. And then, as suddenly as it started, the noise stopped. I waited there, heart hammering in my chest, staring at the window until dawn broke. When I finally worked up the courage to look outside, there were faint smudges on the glass, fingerprints. But they were on the inside of the window. I didn't sleep that night. Not a second. I sat on the couch, lights on, clutching a kitchen knife like it was some kind of charm against whatever was out there or in here. Every creak of the old apartment made my skin crawl. When morning finally came, I went straight to the building manager. He was this old guy named Gary who'd seen everything gore. At least acted like it. I told him what happened, about the man following me, about the fingerprints on the inside of my window. He frowned, chewing the end of a pen. "You sure it wasn't condensation? Happens when it's cold out." I just stared at him. "Condensation doesn't leave fingerprints." Gary sighed and promised to send someone to check the locks, but I could tell he didn't believe me. Later that day, I asked my roommate, Emily, if she'd come home the night before. Maybe she'd somehow opened the window earlier, touched the glass. She looked at me like I'd lost it. "Dude," I stated marks. "I haven't been home since yesterday morning." That's when my stomach dropped. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe the fingerprints had been there for days, and I'd just never noticed. But deep down, knew better. I'd cleaned that window last week. That evening, I got home before dark. I double-checked every lock, shut every curtain, left the lights on in the hallway. The apartment was silent, except for the low hum of the refrigerator. I tried to distract myself by watching TV, but every reflection, every shadow made me jump. Around midnight, I started to calm down. The adrenaline was wearing off, and I told myself that maybe it was all in my head. I turned off the TV, and that's when I heard it again. The sound. A soft, dragging noise outside my window, like someone was slowly tracing their nails down the glass. I froze in place, staring at the curtains, my heart thundering in my chest. I didn't dare move. The sound stopped, then started again. I crept toward the window and, with shaking hands, pulled the curtain back, just an inch. Nothing. Just the empty parking lot, glowing under the flickering security light. Then movement. A figure darted behind the dumpster near the edge of the lot. I couldn't see the face, just a shadow, tall and lean. My throat went dry. I backed away and called 911. My hands were trembling so badly that I almost dropped the phone. The dispatcher's calm voice only made the situation feel more unreal. "Ma'am, are you safe right now?" I think so. He's outside. I saw someone hiding. Stay inside. Officers are on the way. I hung up and waited. Every second felt like an eternity. I listened so hard my ears hurt, trying to catch any sound over the pounding of my pulse. Then came a new noise. Tap, tap, tap. It was coming from the front door. I froze. Someone was knocking. Softly. Slowly. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. The knocking continued steady, deliberate. Not frantic. Not aggressive. Just patient. And then, a low voice. "I know you're in there." The voice was male, quiet, but confident. My blood ran cold. I took a step back, my mind screaming at me to run, but I couldn't move. The door handle rattled gently, then stopped. A moment later, I heard the sound of footsteps fading down the hallway outside. When the police finally arrived 15 minutes later, the man was long gone. They checked the lot, the dumpster, the hallway. One of the officers, a tall woman named Jensen, tried to reassure me it could have been someone drunk, maybe looking for the wrong apartment. But she didn't sound convinced. Before she left, she gave me her card. If anything else happens, call me directly. Don't wait for dispatch. For the next few days, I barely left the apartment. Emily came back, and I told her everything. She didn't laugh or tell me I was overreacting. She just looked scared. We decided to buy a cheap security camera and put it by the window. It wasn't great quality, but at least it made me feel like I was doing something. The next few nights were quiet. Too quiet. For the first time in a week, I almost started to feel safe again. Then, on the fourth night, the camera picked something up. I woke up to a notification on my phone at 3:17 a.m. Motion detected. My stomach twisted. I opened the app, heart hammering. The grainy footage showed the parking lot outside my window, empty. Then, from the left edge of the screen, a figure stepped into view. He was wearing the same dark hoodie. He moved slowly, almost calmly, walking straight toward my window. He stopped directly in front of the camera and tilted his head, as if he could see me watching. Then he raised his hand. In the reflection of the light, I could see something small and shiny between his fingers. A key. He pressed it against the glass, scraping it downward. That sound, the same sound I'd heard before. Then he leaned closer, his hood still hiding his face, and whispered something. The audio was muffled, but I could barely make it out. "Why did you run?" My whole body went cold. He stood there for almost a full minute, staring directly into the camera. Then, without warning, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the darkness. I called Officer Jensen right away. She came over that morning, reviewed the footage, and frowned. "Looks like he knew exactly where your camera was. I'm guessing he's been watching you for a while." That sentence made my skin crawl. She suggested I stay somewhere else for a few days while they tried to track him down. So I packed a bag and stayed at my friend Lindsay's place across town. It felt safer, at least for a while. But on the second night there, something happened that made me realize this wasn't over. As I was lying on Lindsay's couch, trying to fall asleep, I heard a sound outside, a faint tapping, rhythmic. Familiar. I got up and looked through the blinds, and there he was, standing across the street, under the streetlight. Same hoodie, same stance. Just watching. When I blinked, he was gone. I didn't tell Lindsay what I saw that night. What could I even say? That the same man had followed me across town, found me again, and was standing outside her house at 3 a.m. She would have thought I'd finally lost it, so I stayed quiet, pretending I hadn't seen anything. But I didn't sleep a single minute. I kept glancing through the blinds until the sky began to lighten. When morning came, I left before Lindsay woke up. I drove back to my apartment, heart pounding the whole way. The streets were still damp from last night's rain, and the air felt heavier than usual. I didn't want to go back there, but a part of me needed to. I needed proof I wasn't going crazy. The first thing I noticed when I arrived was the front gate. The keypad was smashed. It looked like someone had hit it with something metal. The panel hung loose, wires sticking out like veins. My stomach dropped. I ran inside, up the stairs, keys already in my hand. When I reached my apartment door, I stopped. There was a note taped to it, just a single sheet of paper, written in black marker. "You shouldn't have left." My hands were shaking as I tore it down. I looked around the hallway, empty. No footsteps, no sounds. I forced myself inside, locking the door behind me. Everything looked the same at first. Couch, TV, blinds closed. But something felt off, like the air itself was different. Tem primer asado leo italiano. My security camera, the one I'd set by the window, was gone. The mount was still there, but the camera itself had been ripped off. I called Officer Jensen immediately, my voice trembling so badly I could barely speak. She said she'd descend someone right away and told me to stay in a locked room until they arrived. I did exactly that. I went to my bedroom, locked the door, and sat on the floor with my back against it. That's when I heard the creak. A single floorboard in the hallway. Then another. Someone was inside. My heart nearly stopped. I grabbed my phone and whispered into it. "He's here. He's inside." The dispatchee on the other end told me to stay quiet, that officers were just a few minutes away. But the footsteps were getting closer. Slow, careful, almost gentle. Like he didn't want to scare me. He wanted me to listen. The sound stopped right outside my bedroom door. I could hear him breathing. A soft, slow inhale, then an exhale that sent chills crawling down my neck. The doorknob turned once, twice, then stopped. I pressed my hand against my mouth to keep from making a sound. And then, in the faintest whisper I've ever heard, almost like it came from the other side of the wood, he said, "My name." Knew my name. I felt tears sting my eyes. I don't even remember giving a sound, but suddenly there was a loud crash. The front door bursting open. Police. The moment I heard it, I unlocked the door and ran out. 2 officers were already in the hallway, guns drawn. But whoever had been there was gone. The front door was wide open, swinging slowly. The only trace left was the smell of rain and something faintly metallic, like blood or rust. They searched every corner of the building. Nothing. No footprints. No signs of forced entry, besides the broken gate. Officer Jensen stayed after the others left. She looked exhausted but concerned. "I knew your name," she said quietly. "That's not random. You should pack a bag and stay somewhere far away for a while. Family, friends, anyone." So I did. That same night, I left town and stayed with my sister, 3 hours away. For a few weeks, nothing happened. No calls, no messages, no shadows outside the window. It almost felt like life was going back to normal. I even started to convince myself it was over. Until one morning, I got an email from a new address. No subject line, no greeting, just an attachment, a short video clip. I hesitated before opening it, but curiosity won. The video was dark and grainy, like it had been filmed on an old phone. It took me a second to recognize what I was looking at. It was me, sleeping. The angle was from the foot of my bed. I could see myself lying there, the blanket rising and falling with my breath. For a moment, I thought maybe it was old footage from a camera I'd forgotten about, but then I saw the timestamp in the corner. It was from last night. The camera shook slightly, and then I saw a figure move into frame tall, wearing that same hoodie. He leaned over the bed, and the video cut out. I screamed and threw my phone across the room. My sister came running, panicked, and I showed her what I'd seen. She called the police immediately, but when they traced the email, it led to a dead end, a temporary account created less than an hour before it was sent. That night, I couldn't stay there. I booked a motel near the edge of town, a place with cameras, locks, and people always around. It wasn't comfortable, but at least I could breathe again. For the first time in weeks, I fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. When I woke up the next morning, there was a knock on the door. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. I froze. Through the peephole, I saw a piece of paper taped to the door. No one was there. I pulled it down, my hands shaking so hard I could barely read it. In the same handwriting as before, it said, "You can run, but you'll always hear my footsteps. If you ever feel like someone's following you, don't ignore it. Trust your gut. Sometimes the scariest thing isn't what's in the shadows. It's what's already watching you." If you made it this far, drop a comment down below. Tell me what you would be done if you were in this situation. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss more true horror stories like this one. Because next time, the footsteps might be behind you.